What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Adam, also known as the Plant Power Coach. Today, I'm joined by Morgan. Morgan, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing very well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastically. Where exactly are you in the world? I'm assuming the UK, right?
I'm in the UK.
Yeah,
Interestingly, I live in South Wales, of which there is a New South Wales in Australia, if I'm correct.
that's where I'm from. So that
No
actually
way.
works perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
cool.
from. So Sydney's the capital of the state, New South Wales, and that's
Hmm.
that's where I'm from. And as you mentioned before I hit record, it's where you guys send all your convicts. So yeah,
Yeah, you're one of those pesky buggers. You stay over
I
there,
I
please.
I I am one of those. So again, I appreciate your time today, and I want to make sure that we dive deep into first of all, some simple stuff, and then I like to think of it as more complex and more difficult things to think about, especially because this whole channel is about a difficult topic, which is veganism, and then some subtopics, which would be fitness and plant-based eating. So before we dive into that, for anyone who doesn't follow you, for anyone who's kind of jumped on scene, and how we got here today, essentially.
Oh, great question. Great, great. Concise, right? So I get well with the coaching side of things, that's something that evolved from an experience of working with a coach, of which I enjoyed, and then it took a bit of a turn with a bodybuilding show that I competed in. I kind of, enjoyed some elements I didn't quite enjoy, and thought, well, I'm going to give this a go because I thought it was quite cool. 3 years later, vegan muscle coach is a thing. Um, the bodybuilding, I guess, that's like every, I think most kids that get into it, right, are doing it to like escape something. If I can get jacked, if I can be a more intimidating presence, my issues will be solved. And, with my genetics, that never came to fruition and it is still far from it. But it, led me down this direction that I really enjoyed. I never thought I'd be one to lift weights as a kid. I was like, played football and cricket. I'm all long and spindly, right? I should have been a runner, but yeah, lifting weights is cool. So I stuck to that, competed a few times. Last time I competed, well, 2 times. Second time I competed, I came first place, which I was very proud of, and plan on doing so again in 2025, maybe. I've been vegan for, I think this is the fifth anniversary in April. I think I remember it. No, maybe it's a bit later. I can't remember the month, but about 5 years. After reading, I've got the book somewhere. The China study was the first thing I read, which kind of turned my gaze this way.
Hmm.
And then after consuming that book, started kind of, I guess, familiarizing myself with vegan fitness YouTubers. Most notably Mr. Vegan Gains, who I found very entertaining because of how far over the line he is all the time. And I just kind of watching his videos as I would, and just further and further along, I went into the depths. Yeah, I actually agree with that. I actually agree with that as I'm like looking at my steak as I'm eating it. And it was actually at this very spot. I was eating steak post-workout, Vegan Gains was there, and I just thought, what the fuck? This doesn't compute anymore. So I think I finished it. Can't remember. I thought I could have waste. But then just kind of worked through all the stuff I had in the house, and then it was like essentially a within the week thing. And on top of that, I'm a firefighter as well. That's my primary employment. I think that kind of completes it.
Yeah.
That's the that's the life cycle so far.
That's amazing. There's a few things to go through, and I definitely want to touch up on the bodybuilding. I want to touch on the vegan gains thing as well, because if you were to ask me that why I went vegan, vegan gains was the largest chip, the largest person to have an influence on me, which I don't think is everyone's cup of tea, which is fine. But yeah, considering that, like, if I was to summarize this channel, we talk about three topics. Number one, fitness, so
Mhm.
training, exercise, those sorts of things you've already mentioned, like bodybuilding. I like to talk about plant-based nutrition, so essentially not necessarily veganism. It's about healthy eating, whole food, plant-based, plenty of fiber, vitamins, minerals, that sort of stuff. And then veganism, of course, which is the philosophical belief towards leaving animals alone. On those sort of three topics, fitness, nutrition, veganism, could you share with me like your sort of philosophy on each and your approach to each one of those, especially
Mhm.
like because you're a coach and you're working with your clients? What's your philosophy on each?
What was the third? What was the first one?
So if we
I
can,
forgot.
no particular order, but let's say
Mm,
fitness, aka training. So it
mm,
could be in this context, bodybuilding or
mm,
weightlifting, and nutrition. Just to use an example, I'm a big 80-20 fan, meaning 80% whole foods, 20% flexible, and then veganism position philosophically on veganism.
Okay. Bodybuilding philosophy. I mean, if you can, it'll probably just be a collection of words. I'm not sure if it's a philosophy, but
Uh,
consistency, obviously, patience, preparedness to learn, training intensity, an appropriate amount of sets, not too many, constantly striving to progressively overload. Um, oh, there was another one. Oh, technique. Technique is something I'm big on, man.
mhm.
Big on. Particularly with, well, for myself and for my clients. It's something I'm on their case with it, like every week when it's checking week. It's like, have you recorded any training footage this week? I know it's the seventh week in a row in which you recorded none, but maybe just this week, please. Because if I don't know what's going on in that gym whilst you're doing things, Christ, you could be like seconds away from disaster. You don't even know it,
Yeah.
right? So if you can, it's for the sake of longevity, really. Again, patience, consistency. The longer you can be patient and consistent with this lifting weights thing, inevitably, the better you're going to get at it, the more you'll learn, and the more muscle you'll grow, and the more jacked you'll become, right? So training technique yeah, is probably the end of that philosophy, I think.
Hmm.
Is
Absolutely.
is that a good little rip
Yeah,
through
that
that?
that definitely explains that. Just to add to that as well, I'm assuming you and I are in the same mindset of like not everyone is going to have the same training program,
Mm.
but I am curious what your training program looks like exactly.
Oh,
Is it a typical bro split? Is it full body? What does yours
oh
look
God,
like?
I could do this all day, dude. I thought before starting it, I will give huge credit to my most previous coach, Cody Moxley of N1 Education and Training. Jesus Christ, they know their shit. Oh my God. Right. I bought this certification. It was a fair old whack for me at the time, but I never before in my life have I opened something up and been so compelled to consume it all. It was just so marvelously written, and all of a sudden everything just makes sense. It's like exercise selection, training intensity, volume, it's all like, oh my God, right, that's why it works. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to that, completely revamped my programming, like 180. Um, and since then, it's been like a collection of, more so than it is a structured, fairly structured thing. Um, like, well, it's certain structures and parameters, you've got like 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, whatever, that you can just rinse and repeat forever. Not to say that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but if you modify things like very subtle things, just like tempo, rest periods, training intensity, like the like density of the training volume in like a sense of how closely compacted it is, you can stimulate so many different things beyond just muscle growth that inherently are going to have a knock-on effect to the rate of muscle growth you can actually grow, like a more efficient metabolism. If you can train yourself to not have to take fucking 5 minute rest periods after a set of deadlifts, you can be in and out of the gym significantly quicker. And because you're recovering quicker as well, inherently your body is in a state in which it can recover quicker. So it's going to recover quicker from your training as well. Um, so sometimes, bro splits, yeah, in the context of like muscle growth, man, yeah, like a bro split, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I ain't bashing on them, particularly if the training intensity is, sufficient enough for you to hit a certain muscle group once a week, which for some
Mm.
people is all that's needed. For me, that's what I'm experimenting with at the minute, and I'm making great gains. If the trade-off between like set volume and intensity is appropriate enough, you can get like a bro split that could take you forever. Might be all you need. Um, but I guess to answer the question, it's obviously always like you alluded to, very heavily constructed around the client and their completion of the intake questionnaire and what they got to work with and what they haven't, for example, how much time they can afford to train per week. Um, but it's a conglomerate of different complexities, all of which it can vary from like 10 days in length, in the context of like
Mm.
a deloady style program in which the rest periods are significantly shorter, but paired with other variables like exercise selection and tempo. Um, it acts as a great deload and like primes your metabolism for the next program. I won't dive off the deep end because I will. But just an example story. It's like 10 days to five
Yep.
weeks in length, 3 to 5 days a week, just
Yep.
completely dependent on what the individual needs.
Same same sort of thing, I guess, when it comes to nutrition as well. I'm assuming, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when it came to your last comp where you came first,
Mm.
congratulations again on
Thank
that.
you.
I'm assuming you were tracking calories, you were tracking macros. You know, I'm under the belief that, for something like that, it's
Mm.
important to do so. I don't
Mm.
track my calories now. What's your position on that, and how do you deal with clients as well as yourself in regards to calories,
Mm.
macros, everything?
So I think having an understanding as to how to track your foods with the tools that we have at our disposal as a modern society is a very, very useful tool for a lot of people, right? Like, for example, my mother started working with a friend of mine who was a coach several years back. Had no idea how to track food, right? No idea. So he said, "Look, ma'am, we don't know what your calories are at the minute, but we're just gonna, I suspect you're eating a lot, right? I suspect you are. I don't want you to change anything, right, for the next couple of days. I just want you to track the food that you're eating. And like at the end of those 3 days, I think she averaged like 4,000 calories a day, right? Sedentary woman, lovely woman. Hello, mother, if you're listening. I'm not criticizing you. It was just the reality at the time. Okay. Yeah, 4,000 calories a day. And it's like for her, it was like, holy shit. Like you don't even need to know what calories
Yeah.
are, but you see that number and it's like, oh my God, what the fuck? So she, after that, really, it was like a huge impetus for her to just get her act together. And now she knows how to track and she manages her weight quite well through that. And as you said, you're not tracking at the minute. I go through phases where I don't track. Like at the minute, I'm not really. I've got my set number of meals that I know meet kind of a certain level of caloric intake. I've got flexibility because I'm bulking as well. Um, oh God. Aha, sorry, I'm back on track now. Um, am I? Yeah, calories tracking, right? Yeah, sometimes I take my foot off the gas, right? Because you're in the routine, you know what's going on. As long as you stay on top of things. Um, but for the competition, because it's a skill I had and I have very well, yeah, you like absolutely have to utilize it. I'd say if you want to take your body composition to like such extremes, you want to make damn sure that what you're doing is working as opposed to just winging it, right? It takes so much effort and so much consistency. You've got to be meticulous with it. And at the end of it, you're going to be judged on how well you've done those things to get you to that body fat percentage, right? So, yeah, it probably makes sense to pick it up then. But I
Yeah.
think, for most people, it's an incredible tool, that I think everyone should learn. Does that mean you have to use it for the rest of your life? Absolutely not, unless you really enjoy it. But for I think just in terms of health management and just like general, population obesity level management, it's like if you know what's going in and you can see it as a number, for some people that's like, whoa,
Yep.
it can serve as a strong driver to teach them a little bit more about nutrition.
You brought up a very valid point, which is actually something we do with our students. One of the first steps we do is that food diary. It's
Mm.
like, I'm not going to judge you. You just track whatever it is that you're doing right now. And usual response might be something like, oh, but what do I eat? And it's like, no, no, no. You just
Yeah.
eat your normal day. You go about your day. And we always point out two things happen. Number one, they get a good sense of how to track their calories.
Mm.
And the second part is whether it's consciously or unconsciously, they're going to start making different decisions, and we haven't said anything yet. And
Mm.
no one is better at convincing you how to change your mind better than you are. So
Mm.
that's obviously a huge psychological improvement for that person immediately.
Mm.
So that's I really like that, and I definitely agree with you with regards to tracking calories. If you're new to tracking calories, do it for a bit. I usually say 12 weeks, and then if you're not in a strong position already there, continue. If you're not in a strong position after 12 weeks of tracking your calories, and just getting better and better every time, get a coach. You've done something wrong there.
Ah,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah. Um, the last point there, veganism, because like I'm very curious. You're like you mentioned before, one of a large influence besides vegan gains was the China study. Obviously,
Mm.
that's a sort of health aspect. Whenever we discuss veganism, it's generally talking about health, talking about the environment, talking about the animals. What's
Mm.
your sort of position now, considering that health does sound like a large impact, but it does sound like it's evolved to something different, similar to myself?
Mm. Yeah, I guess the evolution took place before my adopting of the vegan way. It was the China study, and then this plant-based thing also means vegan, and then just down the rabbit hole I went until vegan gains appeared. But in that process, it was slowly understanding the ethical perspective. And Yeah, I think if I were to like see, I feel bad sometimes so that I don't like scream and dance about like veganism, right? You know, it's in
Mm,
my name. People know I'm vegan. I don't kind of make a big thing about it. I totally value the people that do, right? You know, activists, you know, Joey Carbstrong, Vegan Gains. Fuck, I love you guys because I just can't be asked. I can't be asked. I've got big things to worry about, you know? I'm doing
mm,
my bit. I'm spreading awareness to some degree, you know, through my content and through my handle. But it's like sometimes for me, man, it's just like God. To be honest, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about animal suffering. I don't want that to be the consumer of my entire being.
mm.
Do you know what I mean? I know, and for some people, I kind of see it does become that, you know. But I'm like, you know, that's great. If that needs to manifest as activism, that's great. You do it. You know, I won't be joining you in McDonald's covered in ketchup, pretending to be a dead pig. I'm not about to do that.
If Joey Carbstrong was on this call right now, he would be curious to
Mm,
hear what sort of activism you do in a very
mm,
strange way. This is actually what I consider my form of activism. I
mm,
have trained plenty of people who have been vegan, who have been non-vegan, most of which non-vegan, and having just a conversation with them has made a huge influence on them to the point where
mm,
I haven't even tried to talk to like convert them or anything, and they've just done it simply based off the questions that they are answering the questions they asked me. What would you say is the
mm,
largest impact that you have right now with regards to activism? Is it your coaching? Is it just
mm.
having a presence on social media? What would you like to make Joey Carbstrong proud for?
Oh God, damn. Joey was here. Oh my God. Right, Joey, listen up. I am an activist, okay? I help vegans most exclusively to get into the shape of their lives, right? And typically they're the ones that like to shout about it the most, okay? I'll give my clients some credit. They love the whole vegan thing.
Yeah,
I'm describing myself as if I don't love it. Of course I love it, right? But they're the ones, right? Just sending the troops out into the world, right? Go and support vegan as vegan Avengers. Out you
yeah.
go. Do Joey Carbstrong proud for us, please.
Would you say that creating strong bodies is giving society, breaking some stigmas, which is vegans are weak and frail, and but you know what? Here are my clients,
Hmm.
and they'll tell you
Yeah.
differently. That sounds
You see,
pretty, yeah.
I think the whole, you know, I'd like to think that most people are a little more intelligent to buy the whole vegans are weak and frail thing. You know, if I have a conversation with someone and that's there as like an argument, I'm not carrying on this conversation anymore. I'm just walking this way.
Yeah.
You're clearly not of intellect enough to understand anything. I'm sorry. But no, I think the kind of not necessarily challenging that kind of idiocy.
Mm,
But like you said, just like having the conversation with people, perhaps not directly, but through like content
yeah.
and through what it is they're representing. You know, typically in captions, there'll be like a reference to the vegan thing. If it's like a cool transformation, like a cool before and after, yeah, like the vegan things going in there typically. You know, oh, did you know she's vegan? Oh, did you know he's vegan? Just to kind of set the spark off. So yeah, I guess it's an extension of that conversation ultimately, right?
I love that. There's so many things I want to touch on. The firefighting thing, I probably have to save it for another time, but I do have some more
Okay.
difficult things I want to dive into.
Hmm.
Um, so
All right.
this is where the questions can get a little bit more challenging. And do you have any non-vegan friends or family? And if so, how do you feel about
Hmm.
them?
Oh God, okay. I tell you what, most of my immediate nearest and dearest aren't. Let me think quickly. Correct, aren't. There are some, but most of aren't. So I guess the nearest and dearest by, you know, I guess with the if we're defining it by like the intensity with the frequency with which I like communicate with them, yeah, most of them aren't, right? So I have to put up with their bullshit all the time. Right? But you know, I say bullshit. It's just an opportunity to, you know, I know some people can get really like triggered by it, but I think if because again, I was initially because it feels like it's an attack on your being, isn't it? It's like I remember the first year when I was vegan, I was like this just militant little prick, okay, just going after everyone, and it wasn't productive really. But I guess the reason I've explored it, and I thought the reason I was kind of like this way is because I was like, you know, I was passionate about it, but when approached and, you know, questioned, I would get triggered because I didn't know enough,
Mm,
right? I just knew it was right ethically, but I didn't know enough kind of from a, you know, evidence-based background to kind of, you know, refute some of their claims. But then as I became more and more educated and started learning, you know, my ability to put up with them has grown massively because yeah, if you want to challenge me on anything vegan related, I will massacre you, and you know it. There's nothing you can do about it. So how about okay, we just pretend everything's fine. If you want to bring it up and have a conversation, I will absolutely have a conversation. And it will be so peaceful and lovely, and there'll be birds flying over our heads, right? But if you come at me for anything plant-based or vegan related, right, and you challenge that, you challenge my ethical beliefs and my understanding of nutrition, it's to hell with you, sir or madam.
I I think I'm gonna edit, make sure that's gonna be one of the first clips that come out, the massacre bit.
I will massacre
Uh,
you.
no, that's good. It's like, I mean, like I've asked this sort of question before to other people. And it's also in regards to social media. Social media, like behind a keyboard, tends to be slightly different compared to in person, especially as another layer to that, if it's friends or family compared to acquaintances too. Um, the sort of response I get from like a social media point is just to like one side says just ignore them, and the other side is kind of like, just giving them sort of rebuttal. What's your position? Is it a
Mm,
combination of both? My sort of, if someone makes a claim, I usually go really simple and I say, could you please provide some evidence? Thank you in advance.
mm,
And I never get a response back to that, like funnily enough. But like other times people making claims and then all of a sudden I'm sharing with them references, ideas, and I feel like I've just wasted my time with this person because
mm,
then they're just spouting more nonsense. Same for you, I guess.
Yeah, it's not often I get a troll,
Yep.
but and most of the time when I'm trolled, it's because, people say oh, he thinks he's a bodybuilder, he's so small, just hideously insecure people, right? With the
With
insecure
no
ones,
profile pictures as well. Like
no profile pictures, the profile's on private, right? With them, it's like, I'm gonna make you look like a complete idiot. Like, and I love it. It might take 10 back and forths, right? It might take 20. But eventually they'll reach a point in which, like you said, they stop replying because there's nothing left. There's nothing left. Um, but I guess, yeah, have I ever had any vegan trolls? I think, I've had the occasional, like, oh, yeah, fucking I eat steak, just like 12-year-olds trying
yeah.
to cause shit. Right. But aside from that, I've never really had many kind of go out of their way to be overly um, miserable,
Yeah.
and nasty because I'm vegan. Um, in the real world, no, no. No, I think if you
Yeah.
seriously come into conflict with someone over a vegan conversation, it's like I'm here to like not kill animals, dude.
Yeah.
Right? That's what this is about. Can we just stop and think about that for a minute?
It really makes you think when like the whole premise, they hear the word vegan, it's just like
Mm,
it's a trigger. But if you ask them, are they for or against animal abuse? They say, I'm against animal abuse. But it's like,
mm,
th- do you understand that's what we're defining? Like that's what we're it's
mm.
it's such an interesting thing
Oh God, it
psychologically for
is.
me because like I
Mm,
run well as you know you're a vegan coach. I actually specialize slightly differently. I'm the plant power coach in the sense of like I like to talk to people who are not necessarily vegan yet. They're kind of
mm,
putting some dots together and they just haven't realized how to connect the dots or how to do these things without animal products. So
mm.
my job is to come in, say, great, you've joined our program. By the way, here are the foods which are going to benefit you, more fiber, less dietary cholesterol. By the way, there's a moral and ethical tie to this. Are you in
Yeah,
agreement to this? Yep, fantastic. Let's discuss it and then continue through. So
nice.
I call them on the fence people. So I just
Mm.
push them on the right side.
Yeah, nice man. I like
Uh,
that. Good job.
I have a more difficult question for you. I've asked this question to two other people, and there's no right or wrong here. It's simply about you thinking about it and sharing it with the people watching and myself, of course. So don't feel, you know, scared about answering it. Are vegans better than non-vegans?
Oh Christ. Oh my God. Wow. That opens up an absolute chasm, doesn't it? Goodness me. Nah, far too complex to answer with 10 minutes left. I'm not even going to attempt that. Oh, is there
Eh,
is there a difficult answer? God, who knows? Wow. That would take some serious exploring. That's worth a podcast in and of itself, man.
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. I know it's a tough one. Do you have any insight on it whatsoever?
Um, I guess, it's probably worth factoring into the equation that one side, you know, willingly chooses to massacre trillions of animals a year for the sake of eating them, right?
Taste,
For the
yeah.
most part. And then the other doesn't, right? That's probably quite high up there on the does it matter,
Yeah.
scale of whether vegans are good or bad or whether non-vegans are good or bad? See, I still didn't answer
Yeah, well,
it.
that's essentially what the question is. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
have a direct answer. I guess most people, I would assume, probably myself included, is the question's not in detail for that reason. So you can actually share
Mm.
it. If I have a vegan friend who is also a racist and a sexist, well, hang on, there's a lot of things to that,
Mhm.
But then
Yeah.
if you can get someone who is a very nice person who isn't vegan to go vegan, I would definitely say that person is now a better
Mm.
person. For the same reason, if you get identical twins, one is a racist and one is not a racist, I would say the non-racist is better. That's
Mm. Mm.
so it's a lot to process, I guess.
It is, God, it's like morality, what governs morality? When do
Yeah.
we decide which is good? Like, is that even our decision to make? As a species, what is good or bad? You
Yeah.
know, it just goes into hyperspace with that one.
I've got one last question for you.
Mm.
It's a little bit long. It's not necessarily difficult, but it's just more to get you to think about your past. If you were to travel back in time to a time before you were vegan, how and what would you say to have as much impact on you becoming vegan sooner?
Ooh, wow. Oh God, that's a good one. What would I say? Um, if you go vegan, it will lead you down this very magical path in which you'll make fabulous connections with people you would have otherwise never met. You'd be, in the most successful position you find yourself in life, just in general, which is a great thing to say. So even if I mean, you haven't got to like animals now, but like think about it, think about it for a bit because there's lots of benefits to be had from it. It's not just, you know, from personal development, but from, worldwide and communal development as well. Yeah, in summary, Morg, just fucking go vegan, would you? Right?
I love it. I love it. I got my second clip now. Uh, not so much a question, but just for the people watching, where can people find you? Where's the best place to contact you, guys? If you want a vegan coach, Morgan's he's a great, first of all, great content creator. Great, I've seen his stuff. It's absolutely amazing. Where can people find
Thank
you,
you.
reach you, website, etc.?
It's vegan_muscle_coach on Instagram. info@veganmusclecoach.co.uk. And yeah, those are typically the best places.
Amazing, perfect. For anyone watching, I'm gonna put the all that information in the description below. Morgan, I just want to say thank you so much for your time again. I'm going to finish the
Likewise.
recording there. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you very soon. I'll speak to you on Instagram as
Cheers,
well.
dude. It's been
Take
great
care,
to be
man.
here. Thank you.
Thank you.